So in the previous session, we had started talking about the concept of subsidiary books, wherein we understood the point that subsidiary books are basically prepared for the transactions which are going to get repeated, and those are of similar nature. That's why mainly we prepare the subsidiary books for the credit transactions as well as cash transactions separately. As far as the credit transactions are concerned, like we have the transactions related to purchase of goods, we have the transactions related to purchase of assets, we have the transactions related to purchase of consumables. We make the distinction between the purchase of goods and purchase of assets, and what we record in the purchase book is only the purchase of goods and not the purchase of assets or consumables. Why? Because we are required to, we are always interested to make a distinction between the capital expenditure and the revenue expenditure. So before I go ahead, I need to talk about the concept of capital and revenue expenditure, and also talk about the concept of discount, the types of discounts. In fact, in the regular batches, we have already talked about these types of discounts, but still for the sake of understanding, I'm going to repeat it. So let's talk about what is a capital expenditure and what is a revenue expenditure. Understand, my dear friends, when you are incurring an expense for one time, and if the benefit of that expense is expected to be received for a longer period of time, generally more than 1 year, that becomes a capital expenditure. That kind of expense is what we call as a capital expenditure. Whereas if you are incurring the expense on a recurring basis against which you are going to get the benefit only once, then in that case it will be called as a revenue expense. So let's observe it. The capital expenditure, capital expense, I said as expense of one time nature against which the benefit is received over long period of time on a recurring basis. Here you receive the benefit on a recurring basis. That is what you call as a capital expense. That is what is considered as a capital expense. So when I have incurred an expense for only once, but my benefits are expected to be received on a recurring basis, on a continuous basis, over a long period of time, then in that case, I'll call such expenditure as the capital expense. Now, please understand, my dear friends, this capital expense basically results into the creation of an asset or acquisition of an asset. Like अगर कोई बिल्डिंग का कंस्ट्रक्शन चल रहा है और उसके लिए अगर आप खर्च कर रहे हो, that expense on the construction of building will be considered as a capital expense. चाहे वो आप बार बार खर्च करते जा रहे हो, पर उस बिल्डिंग के लिए आपने एक ही बार खर्च किया. Similarly, if you have purchased a car, you are not going to purchase the car on a recurring basis unless and until you are the dealer in that. If I, as a professional, go to the market and purchase a car for myself, in that case, for me, it will be a one-time expense. And I'm going to receive those benefits over the long period of time on recurring basis, and therefore the expense on purchase of car will be treated as what? A capital expense for me. So I can simply say the capital expense results in creation or acquisition of an asset. Either you create the asset or you acquire an asset when you are incurring the capital expenditure. That means whatever is the amount of expense incurred in here cannot be transferred to the profit and loss account, cannot be transferred to the income statement, that will directly be transferred to the balance sheet. All right. Now, what is this income statement? What is this balance sheet? Once I finish up with the subsidiary books and the cash book concept, we'll directly be talking about that. Then, an expense to make an asset ready to use. Ready to use is also a capital expense. Means what? That when you have incurred certain amount on the asset that you have already acquired, but for that you need to do some installation. That asset need to be brought to the place from where you'll do the work. आपने एसेट इंस्टॉल कर दी, पर इंस्टॉलेशन करने के बाद उसको कमर्शियल प्रोडक्शन में ले जाने के पहले आपको कंफर्म करना पड़ेगा कि ये सही तरह से प्रोड्यूस कर रही है या नहीं. You did the trial run on that. The expense on all this, what we just talked about, that is expense to do the installation, expense on trial run of the asset, expense on bringing the asset to the place of use. These all expenses is what we call as the expense to make an asset ready to use. And therefore, even that expense will be part and parcel of the cost of asset, will be treated as the capital expense. Then the expense which is incidental to purchase of asset. आपने asset खरीदी इसलिए आपको ये खर्च करना पड़ रहा है. That is what you call as the expense incidental to purchase of asset. Such expenses which are incidental to purchase of asset are also treated as capital expenditure. Like in case of the property, you need to do the registration of that property. So the stamp duty and registration charges that you have paid will be treated as the capital expenditure. If you purchase the vehicle, you need to pay the RTO taxes. Those RTO taxes will be considered as the capital expenditure. If you purchase the goods from the outside country, and when you get those goods imported or assets imported, the customs duty paid on import of that asset will be treated as a capital expenditure. So these all amounts which are basically incurred to bring the asset or to get the asset into your name, or incidental, आपने अगर asset खरीदी तो आपको ये वाले खर्च करने ही पड़ते हैं, then in that case those are considered as the capital expenditure. Mind well, my dear friends, that the capital expenditure is to be treated, is to be accounted, is to be adjusted separately in the books of accounts. Why you need to do the adjustment of the capital expenditure separately is because these are the long-term expenditure. In fact, there is a concept called as going concern concept. जैसे हमने business entity concept समझा था, उसी तरह से similar to that, there is this concept called as going concern concept. What is it? This going concern concept? It says that once a business starts, it is expected to continue for a very long period of time. You are going to be into the business for the very long and uncertain period of time. You are not aware of that how much period you are going to continue with your business. And if that's the case, you are not aware about that how much time you're going to continue with your business. In that case, you need to carry out all the transactions from the perspective of long term and short term. You need to make the distinction between the transactions which are going to give you the benefit over a longer period of time and the transactions for which you are going to get the benefit over a short period of time. That means we are making the distinction between capital and revenue because the entity by itself is a long term entity. जब मैंने अगर एकत्वम फॉर्म किया तो एकत्वम फॉर्म करने के बाद में हमारे दिमाग में ये नहीं था कि we'll be doing एकत्वम only for next 5 years, 10 years or 20 years. We know that we are going to continue this forever. We'll be continuing it for the unlimited period. We're not aware about it. We have not decided it. And that's why when we incur certain expense in the form of, say, we acquired a classroom, we did the renovation of that classroom, that all expense will be treated as capital expenditure. But if I'm purchasing the stationery, if I purchase the notes, if I get the notes printed, those all are the expenses for a short period of time for us. For the students, the notes may be useful forever, but for us, the notes, the expenditure that we are incurring on getting those notes printed will be a short-term expense because for every batch, we have to give the separate notes. So that's what is the revenue expense. So we have to make the distinction between capital and revenue. So what is the revenue expense? Expense of recurring nature, benefit of which is derived only once. If I get the notes printed for a particular batch, once the notes are distributed, for me the benefit is derived. Then it's the students on whom the benefit to be derived. So that expense will be considered as the revenue expense. On top of that, remember a point here, my dear friends. In case of capital expenditure itself, expense on an existing asset. Very important. Understand what I have written. Expense on an existing asset which results in increasing its capacity will also be treated, a capacity or efficiency will also be treated as the capital expense. But if I have incurred the expense on an existing asset to maintain its efficiency or capacity expense on an existing asset which does not increase its capacity even though it is a one-time expense. Understand what I talked about now. Understand very carefully. In the capital expenditure part, I wrote that if you are incurring an expense on an asset, which results into increasing its capacity or efficiency, that expense will be considered as a capital expenditure. Like, take for example, I have a car which has got the diesel engine. Now, with the new invention, suppose there is a hybrid vehicle available. What is a hybrid vehicle? The vehicle which sometimes can be used on the diesel and sometimes it can be used on electricity. So its engine is constructed, its engine is made in such a way that either it can be used on electric or the diesel at the same time. I can just swap it. That's how the engine is being developed. Just imagine that situation. It's not the case yet. So if that's the situation, I go to the market and I get my diesel engine converted into the hybrid engine. By that way, I am able to use my vehicle, providing me the better mileage, providing me the better efficiencies, providing me the better capacities. So that expense on changing the engine is increasing the efficiency of my car, and therefore that will be considered as my capital expenditure. Similarly, take the example, suppose there is a movie theater. Suppose ही कर सकते हो तुम लोग, आजकल तो जा नहीं सकते हो, मुझे पता है. So suppose there is a movie theater, and in that movie theater there are the seating arrangements done in such a way that they are able to charge the reasonable tickets. But now they have understood that in the market there are the companies which have brought recliner as a concept. What is recliner? You just recline on the seat, you just sleep on the seat and you see the movie. So what they decided, that they would remove some of their traditional orthodox chairs, and in place of that they'll put up the recliners. So now when they put up the recliners in place of the normal chairs, they are able to charge the better tickets for that recliner seats. So what is happening? By changing their seating arrangement, by changing their seating capacities, they have been able to charge the better tickets. That means it is ultimately increasing the efficiency of that particular movie theater or not. पर मान लो वहां पे जो कारपेट लगा हुआ था, पहले तो ये कारपेट वगैरह की कंसेप्ट नहीं होती थी, पर आजकल तो मतलब इट्स अ काइंड ऑफ राजाशाही अरेंजमेंट. तो जो कारपेट लगा हुआ है वो खराब हो गया है, या फिर वो अब कंपनी को लगता है कि अभी चेंज करना चाहिए. They replace the whole carpet of that movie theater. will the replacement of carpet increase the efficiency of that particular movie theater? उसकी वजह से वो ज्यादा टिकट चार्ज कर पाएंगे क्या? आंसर इज एन एब्सोल्यूट नो. That replacement of carpet is done for the purpose of maintaining the efficiency or capacity of that movie theater. Why? Because when they replace that carpet, the aura, the arrangements are maintained. Even though एक बार कारपेट लगाने के बाद वो 2 साल तक के वापस रिप्लेस नहीं करने वाले. It's a long term expenditure, but it is not increasing the efficiency of that movie theater, and therefore that will be considered as a revenue expense even if it is a one time expense. मैंने आपको कार का एग्जांपल बताया. कार का अगर इंजन चेंज करवा रहे हो तो दैट टाइम इट विल बी ट्रीटेड एज अ कैपिटल एक्सपेंडिचर. बट माइंड वेल माय डियर फ्रेंड्स, अगर मैं कार की सर्विसिंग करवाता हूं उससे मेरी कार की एफिशिएंसी बढ़ती नहीं है. By getting the car serviced on a regular basis, I maintain the efficiency of my car. And therefore, the expenditure on servicing or overhauling of vehicle is considered as a revenue expense and not a capital expense. I hope this point is clear for everyone now about the capital and revenue expense. If anyone has any kind of doubt, you can just put forth. Else, I'll just go ahead. Okay. No one has any doubts, therefore I'll go ahead. Fine. Observe it now. Discounts I have talked about, I'll just try to summarize it. The trade discount. Discounts allowed or received at the time of purchase or sale itself is nothing but what you call as a trade discount, not recorded in the books. Why not to be recorded in the books? Because जब आपका ट्रांजैक्शन हो रहा है तभी आपको पता चल जा रहा है कि आपको इतना पैसा कम देना पड़ेगा. और अगर आपको पहले से ही क्लियरली पता चल गया कि इतना पैसा कम देना है तो you need not record that trade discount, which means transaction is recorded or accounted after subtracting such trade discount. इसका मतलब हम झूठ में कोई ट्रेड डिस्काउंट देते हैं ऐसा नहीं है. Such trade discount है ना. Alright. So after subtracting such trade discount, whatever remains that will be used for the purpose of doing the accounting. तो मान लो अगर आपने 10,000 के गुड्स ले लिए, उस पे आपके सप्लायर ने आपको 2% ट्रेड डिस्काउंट दे दिया, then in that case you'll be recording the transaction at 9,800. You're not going to record that at 10,000 कि मैं पहले 10,000 का एंट्री करूंगा फिर 200 के डिस्काउंट का एंट्री अलग करूंगा. जरूरत ही नहीं है क्योंकि जब मैं ट्रांजैक्शन में एंटर कर रहा हूं तभी मुझे पता चल जा रहा है कि आई एम गोइंग टू गिव यू आई एम गोइंग टू पे ओनली 9800, राइट? कैश डिस्काउंट is basically the discount allowed or availed, that is received, on actual payment of dues. So whensoever you're receiving the money from your customer or whensoever you're making the payment to your supplier, at that time if the discount is allowed or received, then in that case that will be considered as a cash discount. Always to be accounted separately. Normally trade discount क्यों दिया जाता है? Because if you are purchasing the higher quantity, only then the trade discount will be allowed. So trade discount is basically to increase the turnover of the business, but cash discount is allowed for earlier payment of dues. दैट मीन्स अगर आपको क्रेडिट पीरियड 5 महीने का दिया हुआ है, आप 2 ही महीने में पेमेंट करने आ गए, तो 3 महीने आप बिफोर पे कर रहे हो, और क्योंकि आप 3 महीने बिफोर पे कर रहे हो, तो यू शुड बी गेटिंग सम बेनिफिट अगेंस्ट दैट, and such benefit is what we call as the cash discount, and therefore we need to do the accounting of cash discount separately in our books of accounts. So trade discount is never recorded in the books of accounts, whereas cash discount is always to be adjusted separately. Trade discount will generally be given for the purpose of increasing the turnover, for the purpose of giving you more, selling you more goods. If you accept to purchase more goods, then and only then you'll be getting that trade discount. Whereas if you are allowed to receive the cash discount, that's basically if you are making the payment before the given time frame. All right. इसीलिए जब आपने कंपाउंड एंट्रीज को ऑब्जर्व किया रहेगा जो हमने किए हैं, in those cases we did the compound entries for all those transactions wherever there is the cash discount. ट्रेड डिस्काउंट के समय हम लोग कभी भी डिस्काउंट का एंट्री अलग से नहीं करते हैं, राइट? So whensoever you are preparing the subsidiary books, in that case you are expected to remember this, you are expected to understand this, that when I am preparing a subsidiary book, I am considering these all aspects, and based on that I am preparing, I'm recording, I'm doing the accounting of different transactions into my books of accounts. I hope the point is absolutely clear. Still, if anyone has the question, can just raise it. Okay. I'll just come on to the subsidiary books once again now. The very first subsidiary book that we have talked about is the purchase book. Friends, purchase book is primarily prepared to record credit purchase of goods. मैंने आपसे कहा था कि हम लोग क्यों सब्सिडियरी बुक की तरफ शिफ्ट कर रहे हैं, क्यों हम लोग जर्नल एंट्रीज कंटिन्यू नहीं कर सकते हैं। हम लोग कंटिन्यू नहीं कर सकते ऐसा किसी ने नहीं कहा, we can still keep doing the journal entries, but the point is what, if you keep on having the journal entries for all the transactions, in that case, in such situation, you will unnecessarily be increasing your data size. You will unnecessarily be increasing the quantum of your records, which is not expected. Why? Because when you will keep recording everything online, when you will keep maintaining everything into the journal, you will be recording the same thing on a repeated basis. लाइक सिंपल सी बात, हम अगर परचेज के ट्रांजैक्शंस की भी एग्जांपल ले लें, अगर किसी व्यक्ति ने एक दिन में मान लो 500 परचेज के ट्रांजैक्शंस किए हैं, these days this is absolutely possible when you are talking about the large level concerns, my dear friends. And if in a single day you are making the multiple purchases, you need to have an alternate to that, and that alternate is what you call as the subsidiary books. Why? If you tell your accountant, no, no, nothing doing, you have to record all the purchases through your journal, he will be recording it. There is no problem. He's an employee. He has to hear to what you have been saying as an owner. But remember, friends, it will unnecessarily create the burden on your company also. Because एक तो वो बंदा पूरी तरह से continuously occupied है for recording those all transactions. दूसरा, he's getting in the monotonous way. He's been doing the same thing again and again on a repeated basis. And number three, unnecessarily you are increasing the data size. जो चीज आप एक पर्टिकुलर पॉइंट, पर्टिकुलर नंबर ऑफ पेजेस में कंप्लीट कर सकते थे, उसको मल्टीप्लाई किए जा रहे हो. And therefore, as an alternate to that, we brought what? The concept of subsidiary books. When it comes to the small concerns, my dear friends, the small activities, small organizations, there, if you are continuing with only and only the journal entry for all kinds of transactions, that's acceptable. That's fine. That's normal. But when it comes to the large level concerns, when it comes to the mid-sized concerns, at that time we have to observe, we have to understand that we need to have some better alternate, and that better alternate for us is the subsidiary books. And within that, we are talking about the very first one, that is the purchase book. Here, we are going to record only the purchase of goods on credit basis. Why? Because the cash purchases, if at all you are doing the cash purchase of goods, is recorded in cash book, because for all kind of transactions related to cash and bank, we have cash book. Then purchase of asset, purchase of asset or some consumable items like stationery, coolants in case of the large level companies. This is what we call as, or lubricants, oils वगैरह maintain करते हैं लोग quantity. These all things, these all consumables will be recorded in, are recorded in either cash book or journal. If those are purchased for cash, those will go into the cash book, whereas if those are purchased on credit, those will be recorded in journal and not in the purchase book. All right. Now, before I go to the format, I'll just write the posting effects from the purchase book. Because चाहे आप ट्रांजैक्शन जर्नल में रिकॉर्ड करो या आप ट्रांजैक्शन को सब्सिडियरी बुक्स में रिकॉर्ड करो, अल्टीमेट अकाउंटिंग इफेक्ट हर ट्रांजैक्शन के सेम होने चाहिए. दैट्स द इंटेंशन. And if you want to have the same accounting effects after the specific period of time or after even you are preparing the subsidiary books, for that purpose, you have to follow the posting effects, which will give the same effect as if you are writing the journal entry. अगर मैंने परचेज की जर्नल एंट्री की बात करी होती तो परचेज की जर्नल एंट्री में आई वुड हैव रिकॉर्डेड परचेज अकाउंट डेबिट टू सप्लायर अकाउंट. Means my purchase account need to be debited and my supplier account need to be credited. Even if I have recorded the transaction in my purchase book, the ultimate posting effects are expected to remain same. That is, debit total on periodic basis to purchase account, whereas credit, in fact, this all what we are talking about will help you a very lot, especially for the May batch students in the rectification topic, the current topic that we have been discussing. Credit individual transactions to supplier's account separately. Why I'm writing separately? Because even if with the same supplier you have done 10 transactions, those 10 transactions will be posted separately when it comes to the supplier's account. Understand, my dear friends, whatever way we were doing the posting for the journal entries with the for the individual journal entries, exactly in the same way we are going to do the posting of purchase book on totality basis. And that's how we'll be continuing. All right. I hope this is helping you. The similar kind of things I've been talking about in our regular lectures also. But here, if you have got any doubt which is troubling you, which is having any kind of problem for you, you just ask it. There is no problem. Still, I'm trying to go into much of the depth wherever required. Still, even after that, if you have got any kind of doubt, you can just come up. You can just ask that particular doubt. Today, I'll just stop in here. I hope this basic class is helping you, is working for you. If at all there are the doubts, you can just come up. We'll continue in the tomorrow session with the subsidiary books at 6 o'clock. Thank you.